that should work. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. Um, I appreciate your patience as I go through this. Let me just set up everything on the other end over here. So I do want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the idea that we're actually going to get Gavin Newsom as president, as the next president of the United States. JP and I were talking about this earlier today, and he brought up a really good point. And it's a point that I felt, was important to share because the two of us hold a very unique position on this, on this idea that Gavin Newsom, will be president. Gavin Newsom is not just a Californian. He's not just the governor of California. He is a San Franciscan. So San Francisco is considered a seat of empire. So I'm just sending a message in the chat. Great. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate that. It does help me because, like I said, our technology is so limited these days because of the move that I'm really relying on the followers and the fans to give me feedback, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I wish I could be on camera, but I am in no position to be seen at this moment. Like I said, we're in the middle of moving, and there's boxes everywhere, and we're dealing with everything that's involved in moving. So I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate your patience. So I think one of the things that we have to remember is that from the very beginning, Gavin Newsom was groomed. He was, like JP said earlier today at breakfast, that he was, from the beginning, it was like something out of Central Casting. He's only a few years older than me. He is very handsome. He's very well spoken, much like Obama. So most likely what we're going to see is something having to do with the Electoral College at the convention. And even in Trump's discussion with Tucker Carlson, and I don't even want to call it an interview because it was really poorly done. I mean, it was clear that Tucker didn't really have control of the conversation. It was basically just Trump being Trump, and it was very entertaining. I'll admit, he is definitely a showman. He's very entertaining to listen to, and he does bring up a lot of talking points that are relevant, but he's very scattered. He kind of goes all over the place from, CIA undermining, democracies and undermining other countries to, the election integrity and the lack of the integrity in the elections and all sorts of place. Like he goes all over the place, and there's no rhyme, no reason to his stream of conversations or his stream of thought. Now, when he's on his social media accounts, whether it's Twitter or Truth Social, he's much more cohesive, right? So, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not an intelligent person. He's actually very smart. But it was clear that Tucker, from what I saw, did not really have control of the conversation. Your alternative media influencers, whether it's Ron Johnson or your favorite podcaster or whatever, is going to tell you otherwise. They are going to tell you that, he was brilliant and phenomenal, and he hands down, he's already won the election, and he's already going to be president. But there was something that Trump said in this discussion and in this conversation that he had with Tucker that led me to believe that Gavin Newsom is actually going to be the president. One thing that Trump said to sort of put me into this frame of thought and make me believe this is that he said he wouldn't mind debating Newsom. So you're Trump, you're an official presidential candidate, and you are telling, a very popular former news anchor or news person or news personality, I should say, you're telling this person that, you wouldn't mind debating someone who's actually never officially announced that he's running. So to me, that was your announcement. To me, that was your announcement that Gavin Newsom is officially running. Okay.
He also talked him up.
And he talked him up. He said he was a great guy, and that, he had a lot of respect for him or something like that. I don't remember the words exactly and specifically, but he certainly did talk him up. And that he would be a worthy adversary on the stage, right? As they battle it out for POTUS, for position of the President of the United States, right? So this gave me pause for thought and made me think that, that we're looking at, the possibility, a strong possibility of a Gavin Newsom presidency. A lot of you may disagree with this. Right. And so one commenter, Hillary, says that Newsom is beyond terrifying, is what is worse are his supporters. Right. And that's exactly why he would be put in place. You just nailed it right there. His supporters will be his army of little, proto-fascists who will, enforce things like, mask mandates and closing down businesses and, basically, at the end of the day, appealing to the global hegemony, right, across this American landscape, right? So that's what his supporters are like. They're little proto-fascists. Gavin Newsom, and I want to remind you that, again, as I mentioned before, he's not just a Californian, he's a San Franciscan. And San Francisco is a seat of empire. In 1949, I believe San Francisco hosted the very first signing of the very first UN agreement or something like that. I need to look up the specifics on that. Okay, here it is. The Charter of the United Nations, together with the Statute of the International Court of Justice, which forms an integral part of the Charter, was adopted unanimously at the end of the conference on June 25th, 1945, at the San Francisco Opera House, and was signed the following day at the Herbst Theater Auditorium, which is in San Francisco. So it's also called the San Francisco Conference. The United Nations website talks about the San Francisco Conference, and it entered into force in accord with its Article 110, Paragraph 3, on October 24th, 1945, following the deposit of the instruments of the ratification of the permanent members of the Security Council and a majority of all other signatures. So this was a huge global shift, and it happened right in San Francisco. So we're talking about a city that has been, lifted up in the media as a city that's, where the hippies go to play drums and play guitar and be free and all this bullshit. When actually what it is San Francisco is the seat of empire, the seat of global hegemony, which is where it all starts, right? So this was sort of, some people, obviously will say that the United States lost its autonomy or its sovereignty long before 1945. But I would say that this, since it was put into play at this charter, that this is probably where it began. It didn't begin in Chicago. It didn't begin in New York. It began in San Francisco, California. This is why your Speaker of the House is a San Franciscan. And she's been in that,
Vice President.
Right, and she's been in that position for 100,000 years. This is why the Vice President of the current Vice President of the United States is a San Franciscan. This is why the current Governor of California is a San Franciscan. These are global cutouts. These are individuals who come from the city and county of San Francisco, California. They don't come from the Central Coast. They don't come from Southern California. They don't come from Northern California, like way, way north. They come from San Francisco, a seat of empire on the global stage. That's why I believe we're going to get Gavin Newsom. A lot of people will throw rocks at my window and throw virtual tomatoes at me and tell me to shut up, that we're going to get Trump, that that's not possible. But I'm simply following what Trump himself said when he spoke with Tucker Carlson. He said, Gavin Newsom is a great guy, love him. He's really great. He's cool. Would love to debate him. He would be a worthy adversary. Okay. That's what Trump said. Of all of the politicians that Trump prattled on about in his discussion with Tucker Carlson the other night, Gavin Newsom was the only politician that he did not badmouth. He badmouthed every other politician that's running, but not Gavin Newsom. So there's your officially unofficial official announcement that Gavin Newsom is running for president. And like I said, he has been groomed since birth for this role. JP and I watched Gavin Newsom allegedly win the title of mayor of San Francisco when he ran against a much beloved public defender. Wasn't Matt Gonzalez a public defender?
Yeah.
JP?
Yeah.
When he ran against a much beloved public defender, Matt Gonzalez, who's also, an artist and a painter and just a really nice, down-to-earth guy he was our neighbor in Alamo Square when we lived there. So we watched, him, allegedly win this position as San Francisco mayor against Matt Gonzalez. So this is the same thing. Now, what I want to do is read to you a blog post that I wrote, and it's entitled How You Get Gavin Newsom as Your Democratic Nominee. And this will be a mimicry of the 1968 convention. So we all know what happened in the 1968 convention in Chicago. Well, it just so happens that the convention for the next Democratic convention that will take place in 2024, in August of 2024, in 1 year, is also going to be in Chicago. So I'm just going to read this to you, and then I'll, maybe JP can interrupt and say some things, and I can repeat that in case you can't hear him. But let me read this to you. For Newsom to be installed as the Democratic nominee for President of the United States in the 2024 general election, you should probably pay attention to history. We have to begin with the premise that the Democratic Party is done with Biden. Once that is established, it all just kind of falls into place. And personally, we don't think he will even be any kind of official nominee in 2024, especially at the convention. We also have to accept the fact that the American concept of democracy or elections is now a farce. We all know that we have selections, not elections, and it's been over for a while. So simply put, the establishment that runs this banana republic does not want an election, but they'll attempt to make it look legit. So furthermore, RFK Jr. is a risk that the establishment just cannot take. We believe that RFK Jr. exists as a sort of John the Baptist to the idea of Biden or Newsom. He will lure the progressives and Democrats and even Republicans into the party and then hand those voters over to Biden or Newsom. The media will assist in making it look like Biden is a shoo-in. They'll continue this hype all the way up to the primaries. And the truth is, the establishment isn't interested in primary debates. They're not interested in what anyone brings to the campaign table, even establishment hacks like Harris or Buttigieg. They're only interested in the status quo, and that would be Newsom. But for the sake of argument and for making things look legit, they'll probably have some sort of dog and pony show that looks like a primary. When the primaries are over, the establishment narrative will still double down that Biden is the one. They'll make it look like he defeated Marianne Williamson or RFK Jr. and any other Democratic candidate. And this will be a much similar outcome as we had in 2020, where Biden will be the primary nominee. They'll continue this all the way up to the 2024 DNC convention. Here's where your knowledge of history is important. The 2024 Democratic Convention will take place on August 19th through the 22nd, 2024, at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. The most controversial and brutal Democratic convention in our political history also took place in Chicago in 1968, just months after Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. Now, we're not saying that his son, RFK Jr., will be assassinated, because in the 21st century, it's easier to just disappear an influencer or politician and remove them off social media and kill their presence from your feed than it is to actually kill them. But it is an interesting choice of location for the 2024 National Convention. We believe Biden will step down as a nominee at the convention, or something will happen to make it that he's simply not the nominee. Maybe he'll use his age or his family's controversy as an excuse to step down. And it's important to note he can't officially step down because that means Harris will take his place. So they'll have to play a swift jujitsu. He will ride out the end of his term, and then he'll campaign alongside their next chosen nominee, which will be Newsom. So what I'm saying, let me interject here and interrupt myself from this piece I'm reading, which I wrote a few days ago. What I'm saying is that at the convention, somehow Newsom will be the nominee, even if no one votes for him. And I'll explain how that works in a minute. And that Joe Biden will continue, he will finish out his current job as president. But during the last of his, during the last few months or so of his presidency, he will talk up Gavin Newsom. Okay. So keeping in mind, when thinking about the Democratic Convention in Chicago, it's much like the 1968 convention. There might be controversy and planned or staged rioting, but it won't be the real deal like it was in 1968. At the convention in 2024, the delegates will vote on the new nominee, and most likely it will be Newsom. So this is where, even if the entire country, who's registered as a Democrat or whatever, puts in RFK Jr., their vote doesn't matter, because ultimately, when it comes to the Democrats and the Democratic Party, it comes down to the delegates at the convention. So the delegates will override what the American domestic population wants, especially if they're a Democrat. So the establishment may play fealty to the idea of a Harris nominee, but both Newsom and Harris are from the seat of empire, which is San Francisco. So it wouldn't really look right. But since when does the establishment care what things look like? Even if Newsom and Harris served together during the same term, while Newsom was mayor of San Francisco and Harris was district attorney of San Francisco. So they've been in this together for a long time. So the truth is, though, it's at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago that's the key point. It's how votes are circumvented and installations take place. So with Biden most likely announcing that he's not going to be running for the next election cycle, the delegates will then be forced to vote in a new nominee. So they'll select Newsom, despite the fact that the voters that the delegates are allegedly supposed to represent are unhappy with yet another establishment figurehead being voted in. So we've seen this movie before, at least twice now, if not historically, over years and years and years. Because the truth is, the race they really want is Newsom v. DeSantis. Both are family men, both are younger and will appeal to establishment politics, and both look good on camera. The debate between Newsom and DeSantis just looks good on stage, doesn't it? And that's how you get Gavin Newsom. So I think that DeSantis, in my opinion, will be what the establishment puts out as the nominee. I don't think that they're going to do Trump. And I think that the reason we have this whole mugshot bullshit, which is all just theater, and I'm going to talk about the psychological effects of that in 1 second. But I think the reason that they're doing this whole mugshot thing is so that, and these indictments and all this, is so that they can just remove him and put DeSantis in. They really want, if you're speaking from a corporate, global image perspective, And you, again, take away emotion. They really want DeSantis and Newsom to go at it because DeSantis could appeal to that moderate Democrat, you know, that Democrat who's kind of conservative, okay? And they may change their uh, registration from being a Democrat to being a Republican, just so that they can vote for DeSantis because maybe they live in California and they're unhappy with Newsom, but they like his moderate, appeal, the fact that he looks good in a suit and that he's a family man. I mean, they're both family men. They both have attractive wives. I mean, they're both right out of central casting in their own way. Like this is what you would really want. Um, so I don't know if Trump is actually going to officially debate Newsom, even though he told Carlson that he would be happy to, because he found him to be, this is me interpreting what Trump said, he found him to be a worthy adversary, right? So I think that, my concern about all of this, of course, is um, the emotional and physical and even mental strain that this would put on the country. The idea of a Gavin Newsom president just makes your skin crawl, doesn't it? It really does. It really does put a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, we just had an establishment president who goes along with corporate or global policy or mandates or things like that.
Who's also been known as the Democrats' attack dog, who has traditionally been that role.
You're talking Biden?
Biden.
Okay, so JP said that Biden has historically been known as the Democrats' attack dog. Like that's his role.
About the
Crime.
crime bill.
Yeah, so he advocated for one of the worst bills in human history called, it's called the crime bill, and he just defended it like a rabid dog. And there's videos of that out there. Um, so I think what you're going to get with Gavin Newsom is the true marriage of the government and corporate power, and that's fascism. So you have this sort of like, yeah, right. So there will be global governance, but with which is what JP just said. So what we have with Biden is this kind of like this weird double viewpoint of him, like, oh, he's addled and stupid, and this is how Trump talks about Biden. Oh, he's losing his faculties, he can't even lift up a chair off the beach, he can barely walk, oh my goodness, he's just he's done, somebody put him out to pasture, and you know what I mean, like he's done, like he's just too old, he's just feeble, he's lame, this, that. Okay, so you have that narrative going out, and then you also have this narrative of like what JP said. Well, historically, he's been, an attack dog, defending all of these really horrific policies that the Democrats signed into law, right? And that he's not that stupid. He's actually pretty smart. He's very crafty. I mean, we're talking about a guy whose family is benefiting from, they're not just benefiting from the goings on in Ukraine right now. I don't even want to call it a war because it's not really like a war. What it is a kerfuffle that was created so that the Biden crime family, which is basically a mafia, could benefit. So it's not like, oh, a war broke out between, Russia and Ukraine, and it just so happens that the Biden crime family syndicate benefit from it. No, 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 no. They are like, we have to do this thing so that we can get money. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when Hearst started, what was it, the Spanish War? The Spanish American War. He was like, I need to do this thing. I need to write about something in the newspaper. And so I'm going to say that this thing is happening so that I can benefit from it. And he freaking started a war. So it's not the first time that, a powerful family started a war in another country, right? So,
And where was Hearst from?
San Francisco.
And what war was that? The Spanish-American War, which took place in the Philippines, where there's a monument to the Philippine War,
Right.
in the middle of the square of like
Right.
downtown commerce of San Francisco.
Right. So William Randolph Hearst was a media magnate, you know, and he's from San Francisco, and he, by writing a few things in his newspaper, he started the Spanish American War. It was literally a war started by words written in a newspaper run by this guy. Okay, so and it was a war that took place in the Philippines, and then there's a monument in downtown San Francisco for this. So we're talking about a seat of empire. Okay, just going back to what I had originally said. This business of Trump, you know, being indicted and, you know, his mugshot everywhere, it's a joke. It's become a joke. I mean, because it happened in Fulton County in Atlanta, I guess. Fulton Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. I'm sorry, Folsom. Okay. Well, what they're doing is a whole bunch of people are now making YouTube videos with all the mug shots, and they're changing Folsom Prison Blues to Fulton County. Like, this has become kind of like a running joke. And so what I want to say about that is that it is a mockery. It really is a mockery of justice, and they're mocking you with these mug shots that are trending all over social media. They're mocking you with the indictments. They're mocking you by saying, you know, all of Trump's, his entire staff of lawyers and attorneys have been arrested or have had to have their mugshots taken as well. Like, it's a mockery because there are real bad actors and bad guys at play that are not experiencing any kind of justice. And this entire theater of the mugshots and the indictments and the making of the memes and the YouTube videos, and then the AI that comes out as a result of these mugshots and turning Trump into something else, and, you know, this woman smiling in her mugshot and all this stuff, that is to mock you. It's not just a distraction. It is a mockery of the fact that your loved ones have died or have suffered as a result of powerful people in our country that have insisted that they act on behalf of the military to wage a genocidal campaign against the American domestic population. There are real people that should be getting their mugshots taken. There are real people that should be going through indictments and getting served, but they're not. Those bad guys are getting off scot-free, and this whole business of Trump and his staff and the mugshots and the indictments, that is a mockery of your pain. And that is what infuriates me to no end about this whole thing. It is a mockery of your pain. And I'm telling you, Gavin Newsom is going to be yet another mockery of your alleged integrity, the integrity of your elections. How much you want to bet that mainstream media is going to come out and they're going to talk about how Trump defied the integrity of the American election process? This kind of language is going to come out so strong. And it's a mockery of you, because what's happening is that the delegates at the convention, they exist to undermine the very thing that the establishment media talks about all the time, which is the integrity of the American electoral process. Those delegates at that convention in Chicago on August 19th through the 22nd at the United Center in Chicago, Those delegates are going to undermine each and every individual's vote. And they're going to install an established hack. They're going to install somebody like Gavin Newsom, who again comes out of the seat of empire, not California, San Francisco. We have seen this movie before. We have. We know what's going to happen. And so my biggest concern is that this mockery is going to undermine the mental health, I don't want to say mental health, but let's say the mental strength and the emotional strength of the American domestic population. The American domestic population has become impotent in the face of a genocidal campaign against them. This is what literally takes my breath away. This is what I lose words when I think about what's happened. How Health and Human Services, the FDA, and the CDC experienced a coup where the United States military and the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security walked into the offices of these alleged health departments and said, "We're taking over. You're going to be our mouthpiece, and you are going to deploy a prophylactic gene therapy which has the potential to either kill or maim individuals. And you are going to target those individuals with this countermeasure, and you're going to call it health therapy. You're going to call it a good thing. You're going to call it a vaccine." And the fact that the United States population and the American domestic population is aware of this and hasn't done anything tells me that the programming to make it so that violence is bad has infiltrated our genetics now. Like we aren't doing anything. We aren't doing anything. We're doing absolutely nothing in the face of a genocidal campaign waged on us. Now, all I can say is that once you're in a position where everything has changed within your human experience, where the years and years of conditioning, oh no, you don't want to punch, throw the first punch, you don't want to stand up for yourself, no, you don't want a gun to protect yourself, no, no violence, no violence. Okay, calm down, calm down, calm down.
Why do you think superhero movies have been so popular in the last 20 years?
Right. So JP asks a very good question. So why have superhero movies become so popular over the last few decades? Right, because we don't do things for ourselves anymore. Right. We have been programmed not to be the superhero. We have been programmed not to, when somebody takes something and points it at you and says, "I'm going to kill you now," you go, "Oh, okay." And you let them. So this is what's happened. So because we're here, we have to live in the reality of the world that we live in. Like we can't just change this programming that's been done to us over the last 100 years or so, right? So what JP and I do is we just kind of get out of the way. For instance, if this mask mandate and these other mandates do come about in the future, in the very near future, which many people are afraid of, we've made the conscious decision not to be afraid, but also not to comply. So that simply means saying no. And you don't have to be violent with your no, although they're going to make the word no violent. They're going to turn that into some sort of violence. They've already done that. So, you just have to be very crafty. You just have to be very, you just have to take sort of a nonchalant, I don't care approach to this whole thing. But what I do want to double down on is the fact that, they're making a mockery of you. They are mocking your pain with these indictments and with these mugshots. The people that should be indicted are walking free, and the people whose mugshots should have been taken are walking free. So clearly the justice system is there to mock you. And when you're mocked, you should be disgusted and angry. And this whole thing with the Trump indictments and the mugshots are theater. It's really stupid. And it's a mockery. All right. So Gavin Newsom is going to be in the worst version of Biden, right? Because he's not feeble. He's not old. He looks good on camera. He's been groomed since birth for this role to be a fascist. And all of his proto-fascists, which support him, have also been groomed. So this is, a little army of liberal proto-fascists have sprung up out of this idea of somebody like Gavin Newsom being groomed and curated for this role. This is it. Like, this is, unfortunately, your battles and the war has not ended. It's actually probably going to get a lot worse. I really truly believe that we are looking at a Gavin Newsom presidency because Trump himself lifted Gavin Newsom up in that conversation with Tucker Carlson. Trump himself said, yeah, sure, I'd love to debate Gavin Newsom. He's a great guy. He's really smart. He's really, well put together. He would be a worthy adversary. Then Trump will bow out or something like that, and they'll put in DeSantis. DeSantis, who, for whatever you think of him and all of his, I personally think that what went on in Florida regarding, him not, keeping the country free and open while the rest of the country was like under lockdown or whatever. I personally think that, there was some stuff going on behind the scenes in Florida. There's like multiple IDF networks now in Florida. So why is the Israeli Defense Federation in Florida now? Look it up. You can learn all about it. I'm sure somebody has covered it. So nothing is pure as the driven snow, right? But, so this is what you get. You know, and I think that the delegates at the convention hold all the power. Like, this whole business of delegates overriding and undermining the American domestic population, at least the Democrats who vote in the primary, this whole idea of delegates representing districts is, oh my God, that's like straight out of fascism. And so I just can't even, first of all, I can't even believe anybody would be a Democrat knowing that something like this is how it works. It's I lose my ability to speak. It's baffling to me that anybody would fall for this. So this is how you get a Newsom presidency. Biden can obviously finish out his current term. The media will have you believe that he's running. He will even say he's running, that he can win and all this stuff. And then at the convention, he'll pull out at the last minute. He'll do an about face. He won't be running in the next election cycle. And so the delegates will need to put an establishment corporate Democrat in, and that would be Newsom. And there you have it. And Trump will be there for the show. Trump is there to keep people engaged. Trump is for the clicks, for the algorithms, for the, and for the benefit of keeping everybody focused online and even on TV. That's what Trump is there. He is there for the show. And then they'll slide in DeSantis as the nominee for the Republican Party. And so it will be DeSantis v. Newsom. They will duke it out on the national stage, and most likely Newsom will take it, will be installed. And I also want to remind you that California is like the fourth largest economy in the globe. The state, one state in our country, has more money than a big portion of the globe, like for instance, the United Kingdom. The state of California has a richer economy than the entire United Kingdom versus the governor of Florida. Who do you think's going to win? Like, who do you think they're going to put in? You really have to think about these things and then what that means for you. Um, he's establishment all the way. He sits on the global seat of power. JP, is there anything else you want to add?
No.
No.
There's other stuff, but yeah, I can't really get into it yet.
Yeah. He's been groomed since the beginning for this. Like, this is it, right? So I hope that you guys really understand what's going on. And I think that my concern about this is how this is going to affect the mental strength and the emotional strength of the American domestic population. You've already been undermined through this genocidal campaign. You've already been undermined through multiple psychological attacks through government cutouts that exist in various demographics. You know, there is no stone left unturned. Everything is compromised. So what makes you think for 1 minute that you're going to get a legitimate election? And I know I'm not speaking to anybody listening. I know you all know anecdotally that we don't have elections anymore, that we have selections. But now I'm telling you how it works, especially when it comes to Democrats. Honestly, I don't know how the Republican side works. Do they have delegates? I don't even know. But you know, there is the establishment individual that they will put into place. Who knows? Maybe it will be Trump again because he's so popular, or maybe it will be DeSantis because he represents that corporate global, global policy initiatives. You know, so the American domestic population is at this crucial point in their I don't know, I don't want to say psychology, but you know, there's this crucial point in their lives where they have to be really strong psychologically and emotionally to withstand the battering of media assault that's bound to come. And you're going to hear over and over and over again from the media and probably even from your favorite alternative media influencers how, you know, there's this integrity in our election process or our electoral process, and that, you know, by not voting you undermine that integrity and this and that and the other. Just, you know, this is all MK Ultra stuff. This is all, you know, psychological operation stuff. When the very definition of lack of integrity is when you have those delegates at the convention that are allegedly supposed to represent various districts throughout various states throughout the country. And those delegates are all corporate cutouts. They're all government cutouts. They're all groomed to vote on behalf of corporate policy, corporations, global hegemonious policy, this, that, and the other. You know, they don't represent the people at all, but they claim they do. So that isn't a conspiracy theory. That's something that the Democrats themselves have put down in their charter. Like, this is part of their, what they call democracy. That's why democracy is not what you think it is. What you want is autonomy and sovereignty of yourself. You don't want someone representing you. So anyway, I don't know if the Republican Party follows that same kind of sort of rules-based election process that the Democrat Party follows with these with the nonsense of this delegate bullshit, but it'll be interesting to see what happens at, or what goes on at that convention, or what, I guess that convention hasn't happened yet. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, if it's already happened, but I don't pay much attention, but I am paying attention to the whole Gavin Newsom thing because he's from where again? He's from San Francisco, which is a seat of empire, not California, San Francisco. So, and when you have that, you've got a dangerous situation that you must be aware of. There are people to this day who simply won't look at the information that has been provided to you through all sorts of open source websites. Even Wikipedia itself talks a lot about the global interests that come out of San Francisco. So why in the world would you think that they're going to stop? They've already had Speaker of the House. They've already had Vice President. The governor of the state that holds the third largest economy in the entire world is from San Francisco. Like, what makes you think for 1 minute they're going to stop? So I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening and really just kind of absorbing what I'm saying. Who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. And believe me, if I am, you guys can come back and say, I told you so. And you can point your finger at me all you want. I would love to be wrong about this. But history has already proven that this is probably the way they're going to go. So think about that. Don't let this whole mugshot indictment thing make a mockery of the justice that needs to come on behalf of the piles of dead bodies and the piles of injured people. Don't let that make a mockery of it. That's important. And believe me, Gavin Newsom will make a mockery of it in a very bad way. He is a total fascist, and all of his followers and voters and all that are his little proto-fascists. So, it could happen. What you need to do is be able to circumvent it. Just walk around it, get out of their way. They're toxic. So, all right. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining in today. Leave comments, send emails, and looking forward to the next time. Bye-bye.